Just take one hit. Don't you want to be cool?
Gather round everyone. The show's about to begin.
Turn on, tune in, drop out, this show's amazing. It's Super Lemon Haze, you know them boys always blazing. Put one in the air, fill your glass and get to raising. Kirkman praising, school flag waving. Chopping up the topics as they're choking on some chronic. Scott and Eric breaking it down like 21st century prophets. Eyes glazed and minds dazed, it's knowledge they convey. Roll up and consume the Super Lemon Haze.
Super Lemon Haze.
Going to ask you several questions.
Super Lemon Haze.
How do you feel? I feel like a slice of butter melting on top of a big old pile of flapjacks. Yeah.
I lost my co-host. I guess shit got too intense for Scott, and Scott decided as long as I am pursuing some of these equity-based conversations, he's not going to show up, which I guess I understand, but I don't. We're in a very fucking sensitive time right now when it comes to race and or equity. So I'm thinking maybe if a conversation got too intense and somebody was watching this, it could somehow come back and haunt him. But my stance is we don't form biases here. We don't speak from opinion. We just have open and honest conversations with people. We ask questions, and typically those questions just lead toward other conversations. And that's basically what just happened. So we had Tom on, who is the CMO of Rev Clinics. Had a great conversation, and it was so honest that he felt that there was a lot of risk to posting it. It's a very highly charged conversation right now, cannabis in Massachusetts. Statewide, cannabis right now is huge. So we got a lot of feedback from that conversation with Keith. And like I said, you know, a lot of these conversations just kept coming up with these same topics. And Scott got nervous, and Scott decided he wasn't going to show up anymore for these. I don't understand, because basically the conversations were going so well. We were getting amazing feedback. The people who were watching this go far in this industry. So we're talking consumers, so patients. We're also talking business owners. People who are the CEOs of companies are paying attention to us and who we're interviewing, and even some of the politicians and reporters. I was like, all right, man, if you don't want to go, you don't go. I said, but I'm not stopping. I feel at this point, we started a conversation and it would be irresponsible to stop it. So I guess until Scott decides to come back, Scott Bear will be my co-host. Scott Bear, do you have anything to add or anything you want to say before our guest comes on? No, you did what? You motherfucker. You motherfucker. Cheers, my man. Cheers. The most important piece that I want to get out of this is just, I want an open format. I want to have honest and open conversations. I'm sure there'll be some tough and raw moments. Maybe as you've seen in the last couple episodes with Steven or even with Keith. And I just want to keep the conversation going. So that's my motivation, and that's my goal. And I'm going to keep doing it for you guys. I don't think our guest needs any real introduction. We're going to welcome Chief Samura.
Let me unmute myself. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. You share?
How's your evening?
We're doing well.
This is cool, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. This is new, and what's new about this for me is I'm solo right now. So we've got a man down. So Scott Bear was really the guy who influenced me to come sort of into cannabis, and really I just wanted to talk about something, and I was really into politics. So the conversations kept growing and growing, and we had these great conversations with Keith and with Tom, and boom, like the next week when all of this horrible shit was happening, they decided to put out, in my opinion, which was a pretty sensitive short, to the point message to the black community saying that they support them. And then Dan Adams from the Boston Globe decided to call them a racist organization. He basically linked this short video, which I think Keith mentioned was produced by one of their African-American employees. It wasn't like just some like rich white guy in the, just making a video about something that is crazy going, what's going on right now. But he just decided to make that link that, it was, this Cambridge case and this video and their white power and white elitists. And I'm just going to call them a racist. And I really got angry at that. And I don't get angry about a lot of things. I have a lot of passion. I've got a lot of energy, but like, it pissed me off. What did you think about that when you saw that?
And on Dan Adams like that? Yeah, I want to say I was shocked too to see Dan Adams firing off all crazy like that at revolutionary clinics. Especially when I felt like he didn't really, Dan Adams from the Boston Globe wasn't really that interested in what was going on in Cambridge anyway. I felt like personally, in my opinion, he was more interested in some
some clout,
some headline to sell papers,
right?
Basically, which is perfectly okay because he works for the Boston Globe. You know what I mean?
Because they get free passes, you saying, or
it's not okay with me, no. But I'm saying whatever they do that regularly. We're pretty used to this type of stuff. Like I said, no one's really covering how social equity businesses are trying to move into the business, and there's a lot of rhetoric, but we're fortunate to be living in a time when we can all be so influential in our communities and culture. It's really how I feel. And that's a big reason for why I've been an activist in the cannabis space. I've always seen, at least here regionally, cannabis legalization as our opportunity for at least some type of reparations and some Black economic wealth building that we haven't had the opportunity to do before. And so for me, I've always seen it like that, and I've attacked it like that. And that's why I've come to be known as something. That's why I'm in the cannabis biz now. It's really an outgrowth of my activism, and it's why people know me as an activist locally.
You come from a background of cannabis, correct? You mentioned that?
Yeah, so I went to middle school and high school in Northern California in the early 90s, right before California's legalization.
How did you make it back east then? What brought you here?
I was born out here. I came back out here, finished school, and then went to the Army. And so I served early in the Iraq War in 2003 and 2004, and really came back to cannabis after growing up with it. I came back to it medicinally as a Iraq War veteran and as a patient.
What initially motivated you to serve in the Army? Just curious.
I'm fourth generation Army, wartime Army veteran, and it's a big part of who my family is, but it's also a way for me to serve my community. And, my whole family are really community servants. They're nurses and teachers and people who've been in the Army. And it's really our culture to do that. And we get a lot from that. And it's really how we interact with folks.
Just a point that was brought up with Stephen Mandela when he was on is that there seems to be, a lot of stigma, especially for vets who are publicly known to use or ask for or support the cannabis industry. What gave you the courage to sort of, go with it and stick with that message?
It's been really tough, but that's kind of the obligation I felt as somebody who returned from the Iraq War early and realized that I was going through what a lot of veterans were going to be going through. I understood I was really privileged, you know what I mean, to be in a position to be able to advocate for all of these folks. And so, I learned how to advocate for people like me.
So when you're saying advocate for you and for you, you're talking specifically about is about a racial thing, or you're talking about veterans? Like who is the population and who are the people that you felt you were the voice for or carrying with you?
That's a great question. So I live in Mattapan. Okay. I live in a Black neighborhood, but I'm also a veteran of the Iraq War. So I'm a veteran too. And I'm an adult. I'm 40 plus. I have a family, and I live in a legal adult medical cannabis lifestyle here in Massachusetts. And that is valuable experience and knowledge for a lot of other people that want to be able to do the same thing. And so my activism started out as providing direct service to those people like me in my private members club and in a delivery service.
I'm sure some of our listeners aren't going to be too familiar with what you're just describing, but you're saying a club and a delivery service. So you're speaking about a social club and cannabis delivery. How did that work for you at that time?
I created and ran Mass Bay Cannabis, New England's original private cannabis club. And like I said, we were a private members association that supported members' healthy adult cannabis lifestyles, and so sharing a lot of exactly what I'm telling you, and even going further to provide service to those members in the way of trying to help them find safe medical cannabis for them to use, and helping them to learn how to, live a lifestyle like that. And so that's my early market experience here for cannabis.
Who are your members, Chief? I'm just curious. Who were you primarily serving in this club?
Medical cannabis patients here in Massachusetts. And even because I no longer do delivery, and I no longer run the club to the same level that I did before adult use cannabis came to town. But I was serving primarily medical cannabis patients, and I would go to their homes. They would be very grateful. And during that time, I did one of the first televised cannabis deliveries from the region with Cheryl Fiandaco on Channel 7. And I was just exposing and displaying the fact that we had legal cannabis delivery out here for people that did things the right way in private associations.
That club and that service sort of catapulted you into wanting to learn a little bit more and do a little bit more in the industry. So what was your next steps after that?
So Mass Bay Cannabis led me to really understand the whole local cannabis environment as it was unfolding into more an emerging legalized market, licensed market. And so I kind of surveyed what was going on and tried to find out how I could continue to support an equitable market, continue to support people like me, continue to support a more healthy type of environment. Because I know how these things go when they tend to get legalized. And like I said, I was in California right before medical legalization out there. And then I happened to move out here. So I was familiar with the timeline, and I wanted to protect my community and stand up for folks and really try to make the most of what I saw was already happening. I saw the market much differently. I saw the need for smaller cultivators to be supported, and for regular people like who I saw myself to be supported in their specific needs too. So I envisioned a market that was much more like what California was like, when cultivators could go to local outlets and leave their goods with them, and they could expose these goods to the market, test those goods, for safety, expose them to the market, get feedback, tell the cultivator what it is, give them a market to help inform them to make a better product, and then the product gets better and better as there's some real market competition, even within these small private types of associations or outlets. In the case of California, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I was more used to and thinking about.
So you're saying that
create a model for that to help share that with Massachusetts and forward that here in the state.
So you were acting more as a consultant then. You weren't looking to actually have or own a physical space or dispensary or anything like that, correct? You're just saying that you just wanted to provide your expertise and your consultation to help people get started.
Yeah, and from there I really learned all the ins and outs of the market. I learned what people really wanted, what they really didn't want. I developed different products during that time. I provided a lot of different delivery services to a lot of different areas of Massachusetts, and I learned so much then. And I helped inform the new adult use policy and social equity policy that was coming. So I was testifying before a lot of committees at the time and sharing my experience, trying to really forward a more equitable, open type of market, because it was clear that they were going to have a very restrictive one.
I read somewhere that you mentioned that it was an exhausting process, all of this testifying and fighting for a specific cause and for these rights.
It was. And really, I trusted and believed that the people that I was speaking to were really trying to hear me, and I'm somebody who, I'm somebody who kind of throws himself onto the front lines of these things to kind of test and expose and see if these things are even real. And then I'll be the whistleblower, or I'll be the one to kind of prove the model. And that's kind of how I see myself in some of these things. And so I threw myself into what was turning into the local emerging licensed cannabis market. And it was very interesting. There was a lot of space for me, and I just started moving and advising people.
Did it make you feel at one point after all the testifying that you were being let down?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would say over time, I noticed that I wasn't really being listened to by the Cannabis Control Commission and other authorities. You know what I mean? When I had been assured, because I'm an economic empowerment applicant, that my experience was valuable in this realm. You know what I mean? And so I was perplexed that I wasn't really being listened to, and getting frustrated that they were choosing to listen to other things, which I knew would with time prove to be, not effective. So I was getting increasingly frustrated. I tried to trust the process, and I tried to let people show that they were dedicated to this local and equitable market. But yeah, absolutely. After a time, I've become so frustrated. And it's not just me. You know what I mean? There's a long line of economic empowerment applicants that have become frustrated with the process. And what they've done in response is develop their own programs to help other people like them, because they're struggling so much and they're so invested with creating an equitable market that they say, well, wow, if I make it, this isn't really fair. How do we make it so that other people can benefit from this? And so what you'll find is that economic empowerment applicants, actually, many of them have been putting together social equity plans to rival, of course, and even best the Cannabis Control Commission. So this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell people to go to, this is not my organization, I'm going to tell them to go to Mass Mother Mary on Instagram, Facebook, and other things, and they can read all about the local Massachusetts market there.
Can I just say something about how the Mass Mother Mary?
Go ahead.
They've got some very interesting graphics going on their page, and I'm a graphic guy, so I think I did one of those last week for Dan. I think I put his head on some, like, I don't know, dummies book or something. But they've got some interesting graphics, and very clearly they're spelling out who they are, and I think who they really think are causing some issues and some problems. And I mean, they name Shailene Title, who on this show we've spoken very very positively about, and I would say most of our guests have, but it looks like she's enemy number one on their station or on their channel. Can you explain that at all? Like, what for someone who I know, from everyone that I've spoken to from your community, they've always said very positive things about it. It was interesting for me to see someone not only just like say, hey, they didn't support this or she didn't support that, but like specifically draw up a graphic that places her in a position that is like clearly, it's somewhat disrespectful, but I mean, I understand it's effective. So what are your thoughts on that?
So this is, I'm glad you brought it up. I'm really glad you had the guts to bring it up, Frank. You know what I mean? Because it's a very sensitive issue. And, I was one of Shailene Title's absolute most dedicated generals. Okay? I really was.
Just carried the flag.
I believed that she was really here to deliver this market to locals and to people that were harmed from the drug war. I really believed that. I believe that. And, the way that I have learned to work with people, I'm not really all that social. The way I learned to work with people is that, I give them the opportunity to prove to me that they are who they say they are. I'm not just going to say, oh, you're garbage.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to prove to me that you're about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And even me, I'm going to even double that down. I'm going to say, oh yeah, you're about that. Well, I'm about that too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I come from. And unfortunately, it means I don't always learn about the full environment and everybody's motivations until later. And so I thought that people like Shalene Title and many others were very much for the cause that I was for.
Mm-hmm.
And that turned out to not be the case. And people like Mass Mother Mary were compassionate enough to actually show me what's going on, help me get over that, and help us move forward.
What did they show you that opened up your eyes? The spark?
I've already been very extremely frustrated about the way that the market's gone and a lot of the decisions that the Cannabis Control Commission has made, and a lot of the results of those things, you know.
But was there something that Mary Mother?
Yes, Mass Mother Mary is
Mother
doing
Mary.
more.
I'm going to get that going.
Mass Mother Mary is doing more research than anybody.
Yeah.
In the support of social equity here in Massachusetts.
Yeah. So,
and what you have to do is really don't check out their Instagram and Facebook. Screw all that. They've done what is the most comprehensive reports on social equity in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts than anyone else has. They're the only reports that have been put out by verified and registered economic empowerment applicants and social equity applicants. And if anybody wants to know what's going on in the Massachusetts market, they simply have to see those reports. And they've put out at least one full report now. I know they have a second one. I don't know if they've released that yet. But all of these cartoons, political cartoons you're talking about, are just illustrating some of the very few things that are in these reports. And yeah, they're funny and they grab your attention, but it's nothing like what's in this stuff, man. It's nothing like it. And so anybody who's serious about equity in Massachusetts has to read Mass Mother Mary's, actually it's the Cynthia Mompoint report on marijuana equity here in Massachusetts. And then they can make those decisions for themselves. You know what I mean? They don't have to listen to me or anything.
Yeah. What is the biggest problem right now in equity in cannabis in Massachusetts?
Well, there's technical problems, right? And there's cultural problems, and there's other things. So if you're asking my solution for the technical problems of social equity here and how to get more people licensed, you know what I mean? That's one thing I would say, get rid of this host community agreement process, and the local municipality power has really caused a lot of delays and pain and cost. You have to get a host community agreement first, and you need a property first. This is a bottleneck that, of course, we all know really supports people that have a lot of money. This is the real estate folks and so on. So if people are serious about equity, then they would really move these host community agreements right to these equity folks and stop playing games.
To acquire one of these host community agreements, typically you have to have a lot of upfront cash, because what you're saying is you got to pay for rent for buildings while you're going through the whole licensing process. And at the same time, what I've seen from a number of other reports is that sometimes people are just paying off the cities, right? They're giving them new bulldozers or something, or like giving them like tens of thousands of dollars of campaign funds or something for the city mayor. So people,
this is what the mayor in Fall River got in trouble for. Exactly that, right?
Exactly, right? Because not a lot of people who are small business owners can get financing, because we've mentioned this on other shows, but you can't go to a bank and get money, right? So that resource is pretty much gone. So you either have to have the private equity yourself, or you have to go out and get some funding, right? Some money from another organization.
The funding would be easier because this industry is actually hot, right? But what they're doing is called driving up the price by really forcing you to get this real estate first and creating all of these restrictions. Saying that you're for the harmed communities, but at the same time creating an industry that only really supports and allows people who are not from harmed communities. This is a contradiction. And I thought that, and I don't really want to just attack Shalene Title. I thought a lot more people here in Massachusetts were really serious about delivering that local market and changing these harmed communities. And so I've felt personally let down by that. And that's why you see me kind of, reacting the way I do. I'm going to continue to lead in this market, to create equity in this market, to support an equitable market, and to do what I do. But I want to see the policies kind of change, just like everyone else does. Empowerment class has really been looked over purposefully, even though they were chosen as a class to kind of lead the business culture. And so this hasn't really been resolved. And the very easy way to do it is to quickly move some host community agreements to that EE license class. Unfortunately, like my sister and friend Leah Daniels has already been very clear about, is that economic empowerment applicants, unfortunately, have a target on their back. And we're in a totally different environment. We're treated totally different, and it's a very different thing. And so we wish that the Cannabis Control Commission would have supported us more and worked with us more closely, as it's kind of the reason for the lack of equity in businesses. Sorry about that.
Who's that over there?
Yeah, we got a red Dobie named Dee Dee, and she's reactive. We are not really going to build this market that people claim to want unless we talk about things like what you're doing here. Because we've seen a lot of people ignoring what Mass Mother Mary is putting out.
How do you think they're going to be taken seriously? Because I feel like sometimes, you know, you have to have a more subtle approach. I mean, their graphics is great for me, but you know, I'm a unique individual. Like, I laughed. I'm a comedy guy, you know, so I took that as humor, you know.
Yep.
And but most people be like, oh, these guys, you know, this is not gonna. I can't listen to this. So what's it gonna take for them to be here? I'm sorry.
I think it's very interesting, man, and I would be very careful because this stuff moves very fast, you know, and people can change their mind very quickly, and people can come to new understandings very quickly. You know, most of what Mass Mother Mary is putting out is really only grabbed from the public atmosphere, and so they're just putting that together in a way that makes sense to them. And so, if however other people feel about it, that's really their own thing. If they choose not to look into it, that's really their own thing.
Yeah.
I would hope that 5 years later, they don't say, hey, what happened to our industry? You know what I mean? Kind of like, unfortunately, what I'm doing now. And I got to say, I'm really let down, man. I'm really let down by all the rhetoric that's been going on for many, many years. I've been one of the ones that was promised so much through the years, so much in this licensed cannabis biz, just to watch every time the policy will shift and support people from another state, or shift and support people who are not harmed communities, or something strange like that, over and over and over, despite the fact that I'm helping to inform policy every single time, as somebody who's in my position here from the harmed community right here in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm not alone. I happen to be a Black veteran here. Like I said, Leah Daniels was just addressing the Boston City Council. And if you think what I'm saying or Mass Mother Mary is extreme, you've really got to listen to what Leah Daniels said to the Boston City Council. We're all speaking like this, man. This is what it is. This is the reality. This is what we're going through. Yeah. It sounds extreme because it is. It truly is. I'm not even someone who spent time in jail for weed, man. You understand? But I'm still here trying in my best to advocate for so many of those people who have and who aren't privileged enough to be here in front of you and know all that I do. And so this is very serious stuff, man. And people are going to speak their mind. They're not going to stop. It's going to continue as people start to understand what's happening.
Chief, how do you explain people translating the data and sort of reframing it to support their own bias? Because I feel like that happens all the time, because everyone seems to be drawing from the same public sources, not all the time, but, you know, it's a lot of the policies. You know, I think people like the Young Jerks and Mike and Grant especially really looks into all of these filings. And I almost feel like we're all looking at the same picture, but we're all looking at the picture differently. And I guess to me, that's the most frustrating piece of having this conversation with people from all of these different backgrounds, because people are starting to like lose focus of what the commonality between all of these things are.
Thank you. That's why I try to just push back and make these people understand. I respect all of your views on policy and all of this ideology stuff. If you're not supporting Black businesses coming into the licensed cannabis biz, honey, baby, you're not serious about this equity stuff that you're talking about. You're not. And so regardless of whatever policy ideas you got or whatever, the bottom line is support the few Black folks that are trying to get into cannabis in your region. They're going to learn, they're going to grow, they're going to get better. And that's the job of folks, not to pontificate about what they think might be nice or what would work for the black people or anything like that. No, 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 no. We're not playing that game anymore. If you support black people, you support black people, you support their black cannabis business.
Do you feel confident that a person in your position would be able to accept assistance? Because again, we're always coming back to a common theme too when it comes to opening up the business. And it's obviously it's time, it's energy, it's money, it's the plan, but it's the money. Like I come back, it's the money. Like, so I guess, you know, and you've been criticized for that, right? Because you wanted to get your business started, but you were willing to negotiate with a company and accept some help to get your business going. And what happened there?
Well, so I don't see it as help as much as other people.
Okay.
You know, so I see it as I was savvy enough, right, to make that deal, get in front of that, do that thing and make it happen. Just like any other business, right? And so that's kind of my lane. And I don't understand how other people are expected to get into the business if the entire business is owned by white people or RMDs, or, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
if people think they have a better idea of how to get in this business than me, then they should share that. But I'm pretty confident about what I'm doing and how to do this thing and the layout of the environment. But this is the problem. A lot of people believe this equity stuff is because black people are not capable. That's not true. This is owed to black people, man. People were incarcerated, beat up, and tortured, and all kind. We're still being chased around.
Yeah.
So I don't want. That's what we've been fighting against. A lot of us economic empowerment applicants have been fighting too. We've been fighting that racist stigma that somehow cannabis equity is a handout to people that can't or are incapable or can't do it in some other. That's absolutely not the truth. And I know that a lot of these existing CEOs, RMDs, and stuff are concerned. If I was in their position, they would be extremely stressed. They would be extremely stressed. And
about what?
I would be in a very, very effective CEO of a cannabis company, and I'd give all these existing MSOs and RMDs such a run for their money. I'd beat them right up out of this state. I'd keep this state a local state for the locals, and I would deliver it to harmed communities. And they know that, and they know I'm extremely efficient and effective at that. You know, that's the type of people I look to work with in the cannabis environment here. People who support my mission and goals, people who are looking to work together, people who are looking to create this equity. So that's what I do, and that's how we were able to work with a local RMD to create the first black cannabis product in Massachusetts. Licensed cannabis product on the shelves.
What's the name of it?
First black one. It's called Purient Bedroom Cannabis, and it's the first cannabis
sexy
lubricant on the East Coast. It is absolutely sexy and amazing. It's the secret to mind-blowing sex. So
it's a THC infused lubricant.
Absolutely.
Whoa.
Absolutely. And it's like the little secret of people all through out Massachusetts. 21 stores, 32 locations. And this is because we worked with existing market participants. And so I would like to see someone show me how to get into the market faster than I've done that. Please. We've had our product out for over a year now already. The 2.0 version is coming. It would have already came. COVID slowed it down. It's coming very soon because we've been out for a year. So we're doing a new upgrade 2.0 version for the packaging.
And who's producing that for you? Are you working with?
And so we're really fortunate to be working with one of the best producers around, one of the best cultivators and manufacturers around, Sieh Naturals.
I'm a fan.
Out in Milford, there's a lot of fans in Mass, and you'll find their products increasingly on more and more shelves throughout Massachusetts. And are people want to tell me not to work with the best people in the state?
Right.
If people want to tell me that, go ahead. Come on, make that argument. But they're not. They're not going to make that argument.
They're not making the argument, but they're standing on their soapboxes and still trying to say the same thing.
Not effective, man. Not effective. You about real equity or what? Let's bring it, man. Come on. I'm a competitor and I bring what I say.
Yeah. I actually love that about you in our sort of initial communications. You mentioned competition. because I'm an athlete. I've been an athlete my whole life. I still practice, a sport, and I compete at a pretty high level. I love that, man. I love that. Bring on the competition, because to me also competition brings out the best in you. You know what I mean?
The best industry I can have, don't you?
Right.
I want the best bud I can have, don't you? I want my region to have the better bud than any other region. How are we going to do that? How are we going to create that? You have to support the best cultivators in the region. How are you going to do that? People have to think about this stuff, man. It's not just line up at the first place that says we got weed. One of the benefits that I've had of being able to have a product, distribute a product, and meet all these fantastic retailers and outlets throughout the state, I get to see how they all do business. You know what I mean? And they all have a different way of relating to the customer, which is absolutely fantastic for me to learn.
So do you feel like the market is leaving out a population just because of the way it's being promoted?
Absolutely. Not just the way it's being promoted, but the high barrier to access.
Right.
Okay. And that's really driving up prices, and actually how white the business is, it's really not welcoming, and how restrictive the business is really not welcoming. And the fact that, so there's so many factors that make it like something that people don't see as something that they want to associate with. And that's why advocates that become entrepreneurs and stuff are so important, because that's the only way there's going to be buy-in to this stuff.
Can you talk about price? I mean, it seems to me, and then, just speaking with some friends of mine who are still participating more in the illicit market than they are in the medical or the recreational in the state, just because of the cost and the expense. They feel like they can get equally, if not as, or not better product for a much lesser price.
It's always been a barrier here because this is not a mature licensed market.
Yeah.
It's not mature. It's just not. You don't have a mature licensed market yet here. The unlicensed market's much more mature.
Yeah.
So to expect the prices to really reflect the market like the unlicensed market does, it's not realistic. We don't have the level of outlets yet. I know this because I have products in most of the available outlets. It's a very small market.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about licensed stores. And so in order to bring costs down, we have to grow this market. That's a reality. And most of these stores will tell you that.
Do you think the illicit market will always play a role in the cannabis industry to some degree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I don't either.
You know what? How about this? Unlicensed hamburgers and cheeseburgers are very popular on like Juneteenth and the 4th of July. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's always going to be a thing. You're always going to have the homemade burger or whatever. That's just what it is. And some people, that's all they want, man. That's okay. So
you've been at this for quite a while. It feels like. How much do you have left in you? Like, are you just gonna? You got a lot of fire, huh?
Yeah. This is what I do. I'm made for this, man.
Yeah.
I was an early medical cannabis patient here in Massachusetts, a veteran that went through that whole experience. I talk regularly and openly with the VA here in Massachusetts. I kind of put myself on the line to go through those things and open up the culture for others. And so whether it's talking to people at the VA or doing a delivery on the local news, right? Or doing a delivery to a sick person's home, and sharing that model with it. That's kind of the service. That's just kind of an outgrowth of who I want to be in my community. And so I'm going to look to do that already. It'd be nice if I could move into the business like other entrepreneurs and really have a larger effect. And so that's what I'm trying to do, to see if this equity stuff is even real. See if all this economic empowerment stuff is even real. And like I said, that's why I'm so disappointed, because I don't want to be the only one that's successful. This is really crazy what's going on. They need to really prioritize equity and the economic empowerment applicants in a different way. I think they've been overlooked, and I think they've been abused, frankly. Actually, I know firsthand.
Chief, are you aware that there's an empty seat on the Cannabis Control Commission?
Yeah, there's probably going to be a couple. There's probably going to be a couple empty seats real soon.
Tell me about that. What do you?
I want to get some great people on there that really value and prioritize what we're trying to do in this state. And I understand it's a hard job, and there's a lot of interest and forces at play. But we really need some folks that are going to put their necks out that are going to sacrifice a little bit so that we can create what absolutely has to be created here. If we fail at creating an equitable cannabis market here in Massachusetts, folks, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
How
are you going to define failure? So when do you think it means that like it's gone or
you can't have a two-tiered market where only white people own businesses and black people are relegated to the unlicensed market. We've already had that. It was called prohibition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's done and over with. So we're trying to build the new one now. And that means they need to talk to black folks, include them in the process, and not have some top-down type of thing.
Who on the Cannabis Control Commission do you look at now as an ally?
They're all potential allies if they value what the state values and what the voters value here. Look at what they've turned delivery into. Essentially, a courier or servant service for established retailers. This is offensive, man.
What
to
me? What do you think? What should have it looked like?
A real delivery can purchase wholesale and have a location to hold, and they can control their own product and make their own sales.
Gotcha.
And so anybody who looks into this stuff is going to come to the same conclusions I do pretty quick. And so it's not just the Cannabis Control Commission, but the politicians in the state have really got to start understanding this before we have deregulation that is painful to everyone. Fall River's already getting in trouble. The mayor is like, I would hope people would take this stuff serious, man. California, right? They're like 20 years ahead with medical.
Yep.
Right. So we've really got to start getting this stuff right, is how I feel. And I'm a citizen, I'm a servant of the community, and this is kind of what I do.
Would you ever try to fill one of those seats on the Cannabis Control Commission?
No, I want to be in the biz. I see my role as somebody who can help others find their way into the biz similar to. So I have a product on the shelves right now, and I don't have a license. I want you to understand this. I've been trying to make this clear to folks and talk about the other ways that there are into this market. Okay, so I have a product on the shelves in close to 30 stores in this state, and I don't have a license from the Cannabis Control Commission. How did I do that? This is the type of stuff that I want to share with others. A lot of what the top-down narratives are really not effective. There are other ways into the market. There's a lot of stuff we can do here. And so, I'm looking to really encourage that. I believe that this is could be a game changer for harm communities here in Massachusetts. I'm looking to make the most of it, and anybody who wants to have these conversations, they can have them with me, but they're not always at the level of the game that I'm at. They're not always understanding all of the different stuff. So it's easier to say, oh, I want to do it this way, or he doesn't know what he's doing or something. Hey, man, if you are a competitor, bring a product to this game and let's do it. And you can prove your theories there. And if you're really about social equity and stuff, then make inroads to the market for people to create a more equitable region and market. That's what I say. We've had the first Black cannabis infused product out here for over a year in Massachusetts. And really, it's like a secret. You don't hear many people talk about that. Why? But they're all talking about cannabis equity and Black people in cannabis biz. So this is what I'm talking about. I know this stuff personally. I'm in this stuff fighting for the whole thing. I know what it's like. You know what I mean? And I'm actually trying to do that work. No rhetoric, real stuff.
So if a person watches this and they think they love what you're saying and they want to do something together with you, what's the best way to get in touch, and what are those steps like?
Go to Bedroom Cannabis on Instagram. And DM us. Go to bedroomcannabis@gmail.com. But I'm easy to find online, frankly, because I'm ready to do serious cannabis business with people who are serious. That's what it's about. That's what we're here to do.
You have a lot of experience, and if I were someone looking into wanting to get into this business, and like you said, you can figure this out without a license. You can probably cut around some of the corners. I would contact you, man. You've got a lot of fire, you've got a lot of energy, you got what I would be looking for. So
there was a lot of people taking advantage of equity applicants early on, charging them a lot of money for consultancy, really abusing people. And we don't have the same access to the media and stuff. They just think we're stupid or whatever. It's really horrible. It's really so a lot of us that end up being successful are the ones that learn how to work with others and really share information and really try to lift up the other one, because it is really a different game for Black folks, unfortunately, trying to get into the cannabis biz here in this region, at least. You know, me and my wife Leah are extremely open. One of our favorite things is really just meeting all the different people in the cannabis biz. You know, we all work together. They have our product, they're selling it. We have to we go around to all these stores and help them learn about it and learn how to sell it and relate it to consumers and stuff. And so we're all really one big family. And I think the more we can kind of come together, support our industry, then we'll be able to change some of these heavy restrictions, open it up, make it more profitable and stuff. And so that's really what I bring here and what I've always tried to model, you know, is let's build this industry, let's build it equitably. And I look for people to work with that have those goals in mind. My wife would be really mad if I didn't plug Purient Bedroom Cannabis again. Okay. Go. One of the oh, here she comes. She talks about it better than I do, but it changes lives. It's really revolutionary and changes lives. It's amazing. We get tremendous feedback about how people are, how people are able to reestablish their relationships. That's great.
That's a great advertisement for you guys right there.
You know, it's hot over here, man.
Yeah. Sweating.
but this is wonderful. That's why I love the lane. I love having a product that I can talk about cannabis to folks. It's another way to introduce the benefits of cannabis to people, even who don't smoke.
Yeah. Can you quickly just describe what are the sensations that people are going to get if they're using the product? How does it work?
Well, this is
what are you talking about? Yours. Huh?
Yes, this Purient Bedroom Kit. It's absolutely amazing sex, a stronger, faster, easier orgasms. They're coming on faster, they're coming on stronger, and you're quicker to them, you're more sensitive to them. It's good for women and men. It's crossing that blood barrier faster. You can come and talk about it if you want. Just close your shirt up. And, put your shirt on.
No, I'm gonna look for. Is it sold in Sieh by any chance?
Absolutely.
We started in Sieh as a medical
and the adult use.
But just so you know, outside of the best orgasms that you will ever have in your flipping life, whether applied vaginally or rectally, right? You have a great orgasm. And we do not discriminate for men and women, but outside of that, it's also great for women who suffer from a bad menstrual cycle, endometriosis, postmenopause, vaginal dryness,
pain during sex,
men who suffer from prostate issues, all those things.
It's really an empowering type of product.
It is an amazing product because of the way that it is applied. It's not a pump.
You got me sold.
I'm just telling you, that's my baby. Cannabis.
All right. I'm gonna go get it next time I make that appointment. That's the first thing I'm asking for. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you go, Chief. So thank you so much.
Have a good one. I appreciate it.
You too. God bless. Be safe.
Yeah, thanks.
Scott Bear, anything to say? Guess not. All right, guys. Peace. Thanks for listening. I can't wait to hear that one back. I thought that was a phenomenal conversation. We talked about everything from the industry to starting a business. He seems like a just high energy guy, someone that I would love to learn from, especially if I was trying to get into the industry. So thank you for coming on, Chief. And again, thank you guys for sticking with me. Take care.
What is this?
Is it over?
We're running out of time.
I don't want to hear your excuses.
No, it's not fair.
Where'd all the files go?